To be completely honest, Attack of the Clones is actually my least favorite film in the entire saga.
Guys, in the end, Star Wars Episode 2 is completely disappointing. I hate it as part of the Star Wars saga.
I'm gonna be honest, I have a hard time finding any redeeming qualities in it.
Alright. Review Attack of the Clones.
It's not fair.
Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones is directed by George Lucas and stars Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee, among a bunch of other casts, and is the second movie in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Now, this movie came out in 2002, and a lot of fans at that time were hoping for this movie to be better than The Phantom Menace. A lot of people were disappointed with what The Phantom Menace offered and really wanted something new. Does it improve? The movie opens with a rather intriguing scene. We see Padme Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, landing on Coruscant when her ship is suddenly blown up and her decoy is killed in the process. She believes this to be the work of Count Dooku, a once Jedi now turned evil, and is played by Christopher Lee. She approaches the Jedi Council and finds out that Mace Windu is not on terms with Padme's story and says that, well, Count Dooku was once a Jedi, and that it's not in his character to be able to do something as savage as this. Well, here's the thing. He's not a Jedi anymore. He's perfectly capable of doing these things, especially if he's turned to the dark side. You can't just stop being a Jedi. Otherwise, it means that you've gone to the... So then we cut to the two Jedi protagonists of this movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor, and Anakin Skywalker, played by Hayden Christensen. Who, well, this movie revolves a lot around Anakin Skywalker, particularly since this is the second prequel, and by the time we're at prequel number 3, which is Revenge of the Sith, we need to see Anakin transform into Darth Vader. But before we can get to that, we really need to see Anakin's character evolve. We need to see him exhibit qualities that are those of Darth Vader's. And in this movie, Lucas really messes up when it comes to expressing qualities that are evil and qualities that are not needed in a character who does not turn out the way this movie wants you to think he does. Anyway, they put on protective detail by Chancellor Palpatine, played by Ian McDiarmid, who tells them that to protect Padme while she is on Coruscant, and on the slightest chance of anything going wrong, that she is to be transported back to Naboo immediately. Hence we get the introduction to one of the subplots of this movie that becomes really important and becomes the major plot point of this movie, which is the romance between Anakin and Padme, which...
Annie? My goodness, you've grown.
So have you. Grown more beautiful, I mean. Well, for a senator, I mean.
A bounty hunter named Jango Fett, played by Temuera Morrison, sends an assassin named Zam to assassinate Padme in her sleep, and she sends a droid with worms in it that secrete poison. So the Jedi thwart the assassination and they chase after the droid and Zam. This leads to a rather decent chase. It's one of the only plus points in the movie. I kinda enjoyed this chase. There are some good moments in it, actually, and I kind of enjoyed some of the more comedic aspects of this scene. For example, Anakin just going straight down towards the ground on Coruscant, and him still just laughing away as he does so.
Hold up, Anakin. Hold up!
They catch Zam, but as soon as they catch her and she's about to reveal the identity of Jango Fett, he shoots a toxic dart into her and he leaves, killing Zam. The Jedi Council tells Anakin to take the Senator Padme back to Naboo, while Obi-Wan decides to investigate and figure out where the toxic dart came from and who the bounty hunter trying to kill Padme is. This leads him to a very interesting subplot, which is that of a planet Kamino. He finds out that this is a planet that has been removed from the Jedi records.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the system you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
And then finally he goes to this planet after he has a conversation with Yoda and the younglings. So this planet is not here, Master Yoda. It was supposed to be right here, but the gravity is pulling all the stars towards it. Gravity's silhouette remains, but the stars and planets have disappeared. How could this be? Children, what do you think about it? Master, somebody erased the records. Yes, yes. Go to this part of the system and find your planet, you will. Thank you, Master. But who could have done it? Who could have done something like this? Dangerous and disturbing this puzzle is. Look into this, I will. By the way, he really doesn't look into it. He just keeps sitting around doing nothing. Yeah, because that's what Yoda in his prime does. Just sits around and does nothing while Obi-Wan does all the work. So Obi-Wan goes to the planet Kamino, where he's told that Jedi Master Sifo Dyas should be happy with the order that is coming around, and he says, who? And then we find out that Master Sifo Dyas is a Jedi Master who was apparently killed almost 10 years ago, but there's a clone army that he commissioned, and it's almost done, and they're ready to fight, but the Jedi don't know about this. In fact, he finally tells Yoda and Mace Windu about this, and he says, the Jedi Master Sifo Dyas commissioned this construction of a clone army almost 10 years ago, but I was aware of the fact that he died before that. So then who did commission the clone army? This is a very interesting thing that's brought up. While this amazing stuff is going on, Anakin and Padme have landed on Naboo, where Anakin is protecting her, and he keeps trying to confess his love for Padme, but there is really no chemistry between the two, so there's really no point. The problem is this is such a forced story in a way that it really kind of takes out any kind of romantic, well, yeah, do you believe this relationship? Watch this.
I shouldn't have done that.
I'm sorry.
Like, I feel like he's being really creepy and she's just playing into his creepiness. And the problem is the dialogue is so wooden that the romance just really doesn't sell.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
What's not helping the situation further is Padme's appearance in every scene on Naboo. In fact, watch the movie carefully, you'll see she changes her outfit in every single scene. She tries on looks even more attractive with every single scene.
Alright. I was 12. His name was Paulo. We were both in the legislative youth program. We live in a real world. Come back to it. You're studying to become a Jedi. I'm a senator.
Meanwhile, back in Kamino, back to the more interesting part of this movie, we see that the clone template is of a man named Jango Fett, who was a bounty hunter, and when Obi-Wan decides to investigate, he finds out that he created an unaltered clone for himself in order so that he can grow in the same way as a normal human being would. Why is this the case? So you can be introduced to Boba Fett.
Boba, is your father here?
Yep.
May we see him?
Sure.
You can tell that kid really went through a lot of acting classes just to be there for that. The whole problem with the romance, oh, and we're going back to that because then it cuts back to the romance. One of the things about the romance is really bizarre is how, well, yeah, it's based off a premise which is introduced only in episode 2, which says a Jedi shall not know anger, nor hatred, nor love. This makes no sense because we've never heard this before, and that's one. And two, if they can't love, then how do you have more children be a part of the Jedi Order? How do you train the younglings? How do you raise So as this is going on, Anakin starts having nightmares about his mother dying on Tatooine, so he decides to go to Tatooine, but Padme decides to tag along because we need to keep that romantic subplot going, and he lands on Tatooine and decides to go looking for his mother, whom he finds with a bunch of Tusken Raiders, and she's literally on her deathbed. Now the scene where she's on her deathbed is really good.
Is it you? I'm here, Mom. You're safe.
Annie? Annie? Oh, you look so handsome. My son. Oh, my grown-up son. I'm so proud of you, Annie.
I missed you.
Now I am complete. I love
Stay with me, Mom. Everything.
I love.
And Anakin's anger, his sadness, the reaction he's having at this point in time is amazing. It's tremendously done, and it really makes up for a lot of things we've not been seeing in the movie so far. Because everyone else has just been sitting around doing nothing and talking with this one monotonous voice, and then you see this emotional moment in the movie. You're actually like, oh my god, this is brilliant. This is what we should have been seeing the entire time. This is what we want to see when it comes to character development, when it comes to a character like Darth Vader. We want to see him go through this pain. But the problem is, it's cut short, because when it's just happening, he starts to go nuts. He starts to kill all the Tusken Raiders. He kills everybody, basically, and brings her body back to the mainland where they bury her. And then you have Hayden Christensen's lines about how much he hates Tusken Raiders and how they're all animals. And I slaughtered them like animals. And not just the men, but the women and the children too. I hate them. I like how Padme, though, I like her reaction in this scene. She just watches and then comes to comfort him. In the meantime, Obi-Wan chases after Jango Fett because his secret's been discovered, and they go through an asteroid field. It's a pretty lame chase. The sound effect is cool, though. Then you meet Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee, and Obi-Wan is captured, and he's brought forth to Count Dooku, who says Darth Sidious is controlling the Republic, and, well, Obi-Wan says, I don't believe you, and the Jedi would know about it if something like this was happening. Would they, though? Because this entire movie, Yoda and Master Windu and pretty much all the other Jedi have just been gone. They've been just sitting around doing friggin' nothing, so I'm gonna assume, yeah, they don't really know much about this, do they? So Anakin gets this message, and so does the Jedi Order. Then Obi-Wan is on Geonosis, this planet, and then Obi-Wan needs to be, of course, rescued, so Anakin goes after him, and so does Padme, along with R2-D2 and C-3PO, because they have to be in the movie. And then you have, well, a very, very randomly placed conveyor belt scene, which is kind of okay. I mean, it's a random scene. It looks like a video game, moment in the film, but I don't know. The first time I saw this scene, I kind of enjoyed it. I don't enjoy it as much now, but I enjoyed it back then. But then Jango Fett captures them, and then you have the worst, the stupidest, the absolute bullshit line of the entire movie, where Anakin, well, is told by Padme that she loves him. And how does she do that?
I truly, deeply love you. And before story, Dad. I want you to know.
So Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan are about to be executed. There's this elaborate gladiator pit scene which is set up, and you have all these creatures trying to kill them. It's kind of decent. There's no score happening. You just hear the sound effects of the animals, and you hear the characters grunting and all that. It's pretty nicely executed, parts of it. A lot of reviewers have mentioned this. I'm gonna mention this as well. It's really funny how the one injury in the scene is Padme's shirt getting ripped, and you just see her belly. I thought that was pretty hilarious. I think you added that just to reveal more skin. Of course you did. And then in the only other positive of this movie, all the Jedi arrive on Geonosis, and you have this big battle between all these Jedi and the droid army, and Count Dooku is watching, and Jango Fett comes in, and there's a huge battle that happens between the droid army and the Jedi army. It's pretty fun, it's visually interesting, and you get to see all the Jedi throwing down at the same time. It's pretty amazing stuff. And this entire time I'm just wondering, where are the clones?
Look!
Well, that only took 2 hours of your 2-hour, 22-minute runtime. I'm glad you guys showed up. I'm not even kidding. This movie's called Attack of the Clones, and it takes them 2 hours to even show up. It's not even about the clones, this movie. Why is it called Attack of the Clones? This title makes no sense. You make no sense. I own this DVD because I owned the original box set, so I thought might as well. You have the right to judge me. Now, aside from the horrible screenplay and not really very great John Williams score, that's really surprising, and between the okay cinematography and the horrendous direction and terrible acting, even the special effects are overdone. There's a lot of over-reliance on them. There's a lot of green screen environments. There's a lot of blue screen environments. And every single clone trooper is also CGI. There's not a single clone trooper in this movie that is a real man, and they've not cloned him in any way. I mean, you could count the fact that they cloned Tamira Morrison, but not really. You don't see any of the clone troopers' faces, so there's obviously nothing that's been done in the name of friggin' practical effects. So everything you see in the last 20 minutes is mostly all CGI. It's not even that good, and there's too much over-reliance on it, and it kind of ruins the effect of some scenes that could be there had there been a little less over-reliance on some things. The special effects are not looking as dated as The Phantom Menace in some ways, but it still looks a little overdone. And then you have the worst lightsaber battle in the entire saga. It's all taking place in the dark. You only see the lightsabers going boom, 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 boom. It's pretty terrible, actually. I don't know. I really didn't like the lightsaber fight at all. And they have a bit of a fight, and then Count Dooku escapes, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan are rescued. I still have to talk about 2 more things in this movie that are gonna make, well, this movie a lot worse, actually.
Misa proposed that the Senate give immediately emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor.
Order! We shall have order!
It is with great reluctance that I have agreed to this calling. I love democracy. I love the Republic.
Palpatine is Darth Sidious, also known as the Emperor. Do you know what that means? That means Jar Jar Binks is single-handedly responsible for the downfall of the Republic and the dark side succeeding in Revenge of the Sith, and Order 66 being carried out, and all the Jedi being killed, and then Darth Vader ever being born, and the Death Star even being constructed, and Palpatine getting away with all kinds of rules he makes, and staying in power for longer than he needs to be, and then causing a clone war that needn't have been caused, even if they had settled this like a proper diplomatic society. But no, Jar Jar Binks just had to give emergency powers and ruin the whole darn thing. Oh, and Anakin and Padme get married, and yeah, that's the end of the movie. To quote a certain YouTube reviewer,
Yeesh.
I very rightfully consider Attack of the Clones to be the weakest Star Wars movie. Yeah, okay, there's a little less Jar Jar, way lesser Jar Jar. He has like mainly one scene in the movie. He comes earlier on in like a couple of 5-second appearances, but that's nothing much. But I still thought that this movie had terrible dialogue, still had terrible acting. There was no chemistry between these two romantic leads. The acting was again terrible, and it was all just a huge mess. The only things I liked about this movie are that early chase with Zam and the Jedi all just appearing at one spot at the same time. And I'm gonna give this movie the rating that it deserves, which is around a 5 out of 10. That's all I can give this movie. And that's the highest I can give this movie. The lowest I can give is a 4. But I'm gonna give it a 5 because, hey, there were 2 sequences I enjoyed. I was like, give 2.5 stars to each of them. The rest of the movie is just atrocious. And yeah, so that's one prequel.
He's overly critical. He never listens. He doesn't understand.
Thanks so much for watching, and well, more stuff coming in. Oh God.